Alright, so today I'm going to be cooking something called Brunswick Stew. It's a southern stew, and I use most of the traditional basic ingredients with a few small changes. I'm going to melt some butter. I'm just going to cook the onion for a few minutes, and then we're going to add a couple of ingredients and let this simmer for a bit. We want to get the butter melted in here. I'm going to add one chopped onion. Just a rough chop is good. Now, if you read online about Brunswick Stew, there's two places that claim where this originated from. One is Brunswick, Virginia, and one is Brunswick, Georgia. And I don't really know what the true story is, but they both claim it, but that's okay. And it seems like it's you know, at the time they probably, like a lot of other things, soups, stews, things like that, where they probably used leftovers. So if you had, you know, leftover chicken and, you know, some vegetables, you know, you kind of saved it for the next day, threw everything in a pot, and you came up with this delicious meal. And again, like some of my other recipes that I make, I don't want to brown or caramelize these onions, but I do want to soften them up a bit. And like I said, just a rough chop is good. And this is taking shape really nicely. The aroma's terrific. Now what I'm going to add is I chopped up a chicken breast. So that goes into the pot. Now most recipes call for shredded chicken. I don't do that. I cube this up really nice, you know, fairly small pieces. And I got a little trick that I do after this cooks for about an hour. So one of the other things I want to put in right now is a can of diced tomatoes. And I would say go with the finely diced, if you can get them. I'm going to rinse the can out. I'll give this a stir again. So right now we're just starting with the base of the soup, which is the chicken, the diced tomatoes, and the onion. And then what I'm going to add now is a quart of broth. Now, typically, the recipes call for chicken broth. I'm using a veggie broth. I have done it both ways, but this is fine the way it is. It's, you know, again, I don't play, you know, like extremely, you got to follow it to the T, every single recipe. It's at your discretion, you know, you add what you like, you take out what you don't like. But again, I stick to the basis of the recipe. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil, and I'm going to cover it, and we're going to simmer it for an hour. And then what I'm going to do is show you my little trick that I use because I don't have the shredded chicken, and then we'll add the rest of the vegetables, spices, and then we're going to let that cook probably for like another hour. All right, so hold on a second. I'm going to get a lid. And again, once you get this up to a boil, bring it to low, lower heat, simmer it. And this is delicious. And, all you need is one chicken breast, some veggies, and, you can really stretch this meal out. You can feed your whole family with this. It makes quite a bit. So I'm going to put the lid on it for now. And again, when this gets up to a boil, I'm going to simmer. And then we'll come back. I'll show you my little trick that I do. And then what we'll do is we'll add the rest of the vegetables and the spices. Alright, so this has been cooking, covered for an hour. I just took the lid off. Now what I'm going to do to kind of break up the chicken a little bit is I take a potato masher and I just run this through here a couple times. And this is pretty good if you don't have, like I said when you start the recipe, shredded chicken. There are recipes where they use shredded chicken and shredded pork, but I'm saving my pulled pork recipe for the future. So shake that off every now and then. You're not going to break it all up, but it will help break up the chicken. And then we're going to add the rest of the vegetables. And then kind of decide if we want to add more broth. All right, let's knock that off there. Take a spoon, and you can see it's broken up into smaller pieces. And you could use that for if you're making homemade chicken vegetable soup, anything like that. Cube up your chicken, throw it in. You can break it up into little pieces once it's cooked for about an hour. I've done the same thing too when I make something I call chunky chili. I don't use ground beef. I like to use like chuck roast, cut up into small chunks. But when you break it up with the masher, it really makes a difference. All right, so now here's the rest of the ingredients. We're going to add a can of corn, 1 cup frozen lima beans. I got 1 large carrot chopped. I got 1 large potato chopped. Now, traditional recipes call for barbecue sauce. And again, cooking for what my family likes. I do have a son that doesn't like barbecue sauce. So what I've done is I substituted this with steak sauce. And dip that in there just to rinse it out, the hot liquid. All right, and one of the things we're going to add to that as I bring up the temperature is I do, like I said in the past, I do like white pepper. So I'm going to add a teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of white pepper. And I'm going to give a couple shakes. One of the sauces I like is this magic pepper sauce. And I'm sure you've seen Chef Prudhomme on the Food Network channel. He hasn't been on in a while, but he still has his, like Emerald does, he has his seasonings. You can find them in the supermarket. But this magic pepper sauce is a little bit harder to find. And I like it because it's not too much heat. It just seems like the right amount for just about anybody. Give that a good drizzle in there. And again, it's all up to your preference. I mean, if you like it spicy, add a lot. You like it really spicy, you could do like a habanero sauce. We're going to give this a good stir. Look how nice that looks. All the colors. And I know some people don't like lima beans. I really like it when it's something like this. And I have cooked lima beans just as a side with my dinner. Alright, so we're going to let this just come up to a boil again. We're going to cover it, let this cook for about an hour, and then what we're going to do is we're going to check it, and if it needs a little more seasoning, we're going to add the seasoning. But like I said, it cooks quick. It's a good hearty meal. And even though it's getting warmer out, I like one-pot meals. I like to cook stews. I love to cook soups. A few other things. But this is a very good, hearty meal. And quite honestly, you know, I'm using a vegetable broth. There's chicken in it, and the rest is all vegetables. Except for, like I said, I don't use barbecue sauce. I use a steak sauce. I have also in the past used Worcestershire sauce. So, you know, this is just going to come up to a boil. We're going to cover it. Let it cook for about another hour. Check the potatoes. If the potatoes are soft, then it's ready to go. I mean, it's very simple recipe, like most stews are. They're not complicated. It's not brain science. You know, anybody could cook it. And we'll check back in about 1 hour. We'll see what this looks like. Alright, so this has been cooking overall for about 2 hours. The liquid's reduced a little bit. So just to cover the basis of this soup: chicken, onion, diced tomatoes, carrots, potatoes, lima beans, corn, and it calls for chicken broth, but I use vegetable broth. It's just a personal preference of mine. It also calls for barbecue sauce. I use steak sauce, or as a replacement, you could use Worcestershire sauce. Some recipes also call for salt. I don't think you should add any salt to it. I don't keep salt in the house. I've said this before. And the other thing is, some recipes also call for brown sugar. Another item I don't have in the house. If I do need something to sweeten anything, I use Splenda. So what we're going to do is I'm going to scoop this up into my soup mug. And you look at all these different colors. And I do season it with white pepper. And I do add what I said was this magic pepper sauce. But if I cook the recipe and it's going to be for, you know, with my family, I go a little bit light on the hot sauce because not everybody likes hot sauce. I do. It's delicious. And, you know, this is a very simple recipe. To me, this is reasonably healthy because, again, I cut out sugar, I cut out salt, and it's a lot of veggies in here, and that's a good thing. All right, thanks for watching.